for this video, I'm going to need my hat for no other reason than it just makes me feel more comfortable because I'm wearing track pants. But we're going to talk about something that a lot of people don't understand about gold prospecting. Hang on. Technically, gold panning, not gold prospecting. Not all gold pans are built the same. Some have riffles, and riffles are there for if you don't know how to pan. Not because you don't... I've got to clarify that. You don't know how to pan if you're doing this one mistake, but you don't know that you're making the mistake, and you won't understand the implication of having riffles on your pan if you don't understand this. So it's one of those things that's not talked about. I've never seen a video on it, and I've been meaning to make a video on it. This is the opportunity to do education. Those rings there, they are riffles. They're exactly the same as the riffles on a flat bottom pan that you would see right across the Western gold prospecting community. Those riffles are literally there to stop your bedrock from shifting. Let me explain that. Okay, I need some kind of concentrates. I think there's some ore crush in here. There we go. Doing this in one shot with no tripod. Right, your bedrock is the rock that is in contact with the bed of your pan. So the rock there that's touching your pan, right? The bottom layer. That's where your gold is going to go because you stratify it. So you shake it side to side, front and back, blah, blah, blah. That sinks the gold because it's heavier than most other things in your pan. There are basically two motions you can use to shift dirt out of your pan. One brings more risk of shifting your bedrock and losing gold without you even knowing. And this is what I mean. Now, the first motion that a lot of people use because it's easier is a front and back motion. They do this. As opposed to the motion that I like to use, which is an up and down motion. Like that. Now, here's the problem. When you shift your pan forward and back and your material has fluid in it, it creates a situation where all of that material wants to slide around in the pan. And as it does that, you can accidentally shunt gold that's sitting on the bottom of your pan towards the edge. And if you do it too vigorously or too often, you'll spit gold out that's been stratified correctly, but you'll spit it out over the edge, even if you have riffles. And that usually comes in places that has heavy black sand. If you've got heavy dense black sand and flat gold, the friction will prevent the gold from sinking into the riffles, and that as that bed moves, that's when it'll fall out over the edge. The riffle is there in the hope that if there is any movement in that bedrock, that the riffle will snag the gold because physically you have a barrier. So if you imagine here that this dirt is in the riffle, say that some of that's gold, it can't move forward because there's a wall there in front of it. Whereas if this is all filled with black sand, you've got flat pieces of gold that are stratified, but they can't sink any further, which happens a lot. As that bedrock shifts up and down, you can shunt it forward and over the lip of your pan, which is why I like to use the dip and lift method. If you dip and lift, what happens is the water comes in over top. There's no forward and back motion, so this bedrock doesn't move back and forth, and the water just takes the dirt off the top. Look, you're just taking dirt off the top, right? See how the lump of dirt, the majority of the dirt, is not moving. It's just the stuff on the top. Now, if we do this again, we've re-stratified and we go forward and back. See how at the very back where the water, when I say the very back, I mean back here, this line of dirt. If you watch that line of dirt is shifting forward. It's a bit hard to show you with this too because it's full of black sand. But that shifting forward is the problem. And that's what we're trying to avoid by doing lifting and dipping like that. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing back and forward if you know that you don't have to deal with heavy black sands like that and you stratify regularly. Let me see. I don't know how much gold's going to be left in this because this is all just tailings. But we're going to go back and forward. There, right there. See that piece of gold? I stratified this a half dozen times and it didn't sink through the black sand. And that's because it's a flat piece of gold right in the center of the screen, sitting on very heavy tin, and the friction's too high for it. So shunting it back and forth gives every opportunity for that piece of gold to move like it just did. It moved further back because the wave came in. Whereas if we dip and lift, you don't have that problem. It doesn't drag anything off the front. Hopefully that's clear. I was just seeing a few people doing panning videos recently, and I'm like, it's not entirely accurate. Riffles are only there when you do poor panning. And that's not to say that you're a bad panner. What that is suggesting is that, say you're tired and you're not thinking or you're not paying attention to it, it can save you some of the gold without having to put in maximal concentration, maximal effort to retaining all your gold. That's why I like using a steel pan with no riffles at all every so often, because it teaches you how to pan properly, because you have no safety measures built in that piece of equipment. They're worth getting purely just for that, just so you can sharpen your panning skills. Because if you use that forward back motion with raw creek dirt and you haven't got a bucket load of heavies, you will see that whole bedrock shift on the pan. And if you see that in any pan, stop what you're doing, reassess, and don't go as hard. Right, hopefully that makes sense. Peace, bye.